Welcome to the Arlington Street Church podcast. Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
Yvon Chouinard holds a very special place in my curio cabinet of inspiring humans. He's a fierce environmentalist, fly fisherman, adventurer, maker of things, a creative caretaker of people, place, and work. And paradoxically, he's also an accidental business phenom, founder of the well-known outdoor brand Patagonia. When Yvon Chouinard was still a young dirtbag rock climber, living out of his car and eating dented cans of cat food that he could buy for 5 cents a piece, he inadvertently started a company, blacksmithing pitons and carabiners for his friends and fellow climbers. The company would succeed, and in the 1970s, he pioneered progressive business practices that sadly are still far from the norm today. Practices such as paid parental leave, company childcare, sustainable and transparent supply chains. He went on to become a billionaire, and this really, really made him angry, because he believed that every billionaire was a policy failure. But that's a story, and probably a sermon, yes, definitely a sermon for another day. For today, I want to start with my favorite Yvonism, born of his experience and to my mind, deeply true, which is, the adventure begins when things start to go wrong. The adventure begins when things start to go wrong. I love these words. They're an American cowboy koan. As a culture, we are captivated by the idea of adventure, drawn to desire the exhilarations and epiphanies of new experiences, new frontiers, new territories of land, mind, and spirit. Oh yes, adventure makes us feel alive, vital, like we've said yes to life. But wait, what? We don't want things to go wrong, do we? We're longing and happy to experience the unexpected delight and novelty of adventure, but we also work very hard to avoid encounter with unexpected dangers and hazards. We certainly don't want to risk things going wrong. But according to Yvon, and I think he's onto something here, we don't get to call it adventure. The adventure does not even begin until something goes wrong, until a mistake is made, or we're lost, or something or someone fails, or we are prevented from proceeding. Only then, when we are humiliated by failure, doubt, disorientation, injury, loss. Only then, when comfort and security are stripped away by something going wrong, can we call it adventure, and can we call ourselves adventurers. Our English word for adventure first appeared in the 13th century in Old French as aventuren, meaning to wander, to seek, to risk the loss of, to undertake a trial of one's chances. This idea of reaching beyond the familiar to the unknown in the spirit of longing and adventure echoes clearly in the first few lines of a very early Mary Oliver poem called Magellan. It's a poem written when Mary was only 28 and it's somewhat uncharacteristic for its bravado. She writes, "Like Magellan, let us find our islands to die in, far from home, from anywhere familiar. Let us risk the wildest places, lest we go down in comfort and despair." Now, for those of us here today in this beautiful, storied sanctuary, pretty far from the wildest places, we who are not necessarily climbers or kayakers or mountaineers planning our next exhilarating adventure, or like Magellan, setting out to discover and conquer new continents and new worlds, this might seem somewhat of a reckless, adrenaline-filled metaphor. I think it works, though, in part because I love metaphor as a way to gild the frames of our ordinary lives, and in part because I think it's helpful and imaginative to embrace the mystery of our ordinary lives as a long series of ordinary and extraordinary adventures, inherently seeded as they are with ordinary and extraordinary failure, doubt, disorientation, injury, loss. And this is the deep and paradoxical wisdom of Yvon Chouinard when he says the adventure begins when things start to go wrong. Failure, doubt, disorientation, injury, loss. These are the seeds of adventure. Things going wrong precedes adventure, not the other way around. We practice adventure when we avoid both comfort and despair, when we sit with the possibility that we're bored or restless, or that we've lost our way, or we've lost ourselves, or that we don't know the outcome, or that things may go wrong. We practice adventure when we forge through the despair and the comfort to risk ourselves for something that we sense stands inside us and far beyond us, both. We can risk an awkward exchange with a stranger in the airport when our flight is delayed. We can risk picking up the phone to call an old friend with whom we have a stubborn, languishing disagreement. We can risk a mini sightseeing tour in a strange part of town after we've missed our exit on the freeway. There may be a time to risk the dreaded conversation with our child's pediatrician when our child is clinically failing to thrive. And there may come a time to finally risk absorbing the agonizing truth from your dad's cardiologist that there's no more they can do for him, and it's time to return home and call hospice. There was a time I had to risk confessing to a husband of 27 years and a gaggle of young adult children that I was not straight, and that although it was much later in my full life, I probably never was straight, but did not know there was another way until now. And I risked this truth even knowing it meant our family would look and feel different now. We practice adventure over and over by exercising risk. We risk knowing the stranger. We risk apologizing. We risk being lost. We risk acceptance. We risk letting go. We risk telling the truth. Some of these adventures, in risking ourselves, will feel life-giving, and some of them will not, leaving us feeling utterly annihilated. But as Zen teacher Graf Durkheim reminds us, only to the extent that we expose ourselves over and over again to annihilation can that which is indestructible arise within us. Sometimes we set out intentionally to wander on the road seen, to climb, to paddle, traverse. And this outing begins with a hunger, a wanting born of desire, or boredom, or restless longing to get out of our comfort zone. And sometimes we find ourselves on the road not seen, the one that drops away, leaving us to walk on thin air in despair. And it is in both these places that we are called to practice adventure deeply and authentically, wandering through the land of things going wrong to this knife edge of the present moment. It is in this practice of adventure and in this place of disorder that we will be called back to that which is indestructible in us, to the heart and the mind and the promise that first called us forth into what we risked. When we become more marvelous in our simple wish to find a way back onto the road to ourselves and our community. Dear ones, know this. We are together in this life and this adventure. And adventure and life take practice. Whether the road is seen or hidden, whether you feel brave or bashful, even if your promises have been taken from you and your heart is broken, whether you were well parented or still long to be parented well. As we prepare to return to our ordinary, everyday lives, let's prepare our hearts to practice adventure, to risk traveling to the wildest places beyond comfort and despair, by releasing the stale identities and entitlements that mask the indestructibility of our own resilient, reliable hearts. And from this new heart center, deep inside ourselves, let's walk out into the shared road together. Let's proceed by seating our hearts with our simple wish to find a way, walking as we are, only in our rags of love, provisioned with grace, courage, humility, and humor, always humor, so that we may grow sturdier and stronger for our next practice of adventure, risking both failure and faith, longing and love. Let's embark, hoping for the best, but knowing full well if our adventure-framed lives are real, things will go wrong. And it's with this acceptance of this legacy that we will live fully into this adventure called life. Befriending one another, forgiving one another, getting lost, being brave, accepting difficult news, and telling the truth. One step at a time on thin air and solid ground, one risk at a time, rescuing us from comfort and despair, beckoning us to the freedom that is our life, on this road, still stretching on. Travel safe, dear ones. Amen. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands on your heart in Namaste. I bow to the divine in you. Let's prepare our hearts to practice adventure, to risk traveling to the wildest places beyond both comfort and despair. If our adventure-framed lives are real, things will go wrong. And it's with the acceptance of this legacy that we will live fully into this adventure called life. Keep the faith and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. Travel safe, dear ones. Amen.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.